Hello everybody, welcome back to Jordan Talks Football. So I am doing my Premier League predictions for next year for Liverpool, and this is what I'm pretty much looking at here, barring a few other teams that I'm still moving around here and figuring out where they'll go. But this is pretty much what I think will happen next season. In my opinion, I think Liverpool are going to do a lot better than many people realise, and I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil in the league because of the amount of managers being turned over. I think we'll probably be getting a few sackings by Christmas as well. I think there's going to be a few teams that people might not expect are going to do well and some not so well. So this is pretty much what I've come up with, and I've settled on more or less, with a few teams going up and down in certain places in the middle of the table. But as it stands, I'm thinking something like this. Actually, judging by how Leeds have been playing in pre-season, I would probably put them closer to the top 10 than they are right here. But Leeds have been very good in pre-season, beating a lot of teams. But as it stands, I think Liverpool will come second. This is probably quite a hot take. I know a lot of people will probably think that we'll probably scrape top four because we've got Iraola, new manager, we've lost a few key players, etc. So far, we haven't replaced Salah and the goal output that's going to be there as well. Lots of people thinking that we'll probably struggle quite a lot. But honestly, I think Liverpool will do pretty well next season. And I think we'll also take advantage more of the amount of turnovers in managers than many other teams will. Man United have got Carrick, but they've been very unconvincing in pre-season as well. The reality is Man United, until they get themselves a proper world-class manager, are never going to be the team that challenges for the title, really. I still think they'll do pretty well. They'll be in and around this area here, in my opinion. They might even be below Aston Villa, who I think will have a very good season next season, off the back of that Europa League win. Brought in a lot of good players, looking really good in pre-season, looked very good against PSG in that Super Cup final, and almost won it, to be honest, apart from some shenanigans. But we're going to go through here and I'm going to talk about why I think most of these teams are in the places that they are. So I think you can probably guess at the bottom of the table, Ipswich, Hull and Coventry. Obviously coming up from the Championship, it's very, very difficult. It's tougher than ever really to stay in the Premier League. I thought Sunderland did exceptionally well last season to stay up in the position that they were in. But the reality is it's very, very difficult to stay in the Premier League. And unless you buy, like Sunderland did, about 10 new first-team players, I think the reality is it's going to be tough for anyone. And that's basically the only reason that I've got them down here. There probably will be a surprise or two and something that will be completely different than what everyone else is saying. But the reality is I think that as a promoted team in this particular league, this particular year, it's probably going to be harder than ever to stay in it. And I would have just put these down here as a matter of course, really, although we may see one of them potentially, surprising us going into next season. Crystal Palace next. I think they're really going to struggle without Glasner. They're losing some key players as well. I think they might lose Wharton before the end of the window as well. And in general, there is a lot to suggest that Crystal Palace will struggle next season. Lots of turnover at the club, lots of turmoil in general. And I think Crystal Palace, they borderline struggled in some aspects last season. I think without Glasner, they really are going to struggle. Nottingham Forest in a similar position, although they have gained Glasner, who I think is a good manager. But ultimately, losing Elliot Anderson and a few other key players as well. Forest, another team which I could easily see struggling next season in terms of being able to get wins over the line. A team that, were there or thereabouts to get relegated last season but managed to get it over the line. But, with again another new manager and losing key players, another team that I would expect probably won't do that well next season, in my opinion. Everton, another one here. Everton, they could either be, I'd say from around Sunderland or Brighton here to Everton, a lot of these could be interchangeable, really. Obviously, they'll probably all finish on around 40 or 45 points as they did last season. You can see Everton here are basically in the situation where they'll probably be safe and on 40 points like the rest of these teams here. Up to around Sunderland, I would say, between 40 and 50 points. But they're all in a similar bracket, really, for me, of being good Premier League teams, but they're never going to be great teams. And one of these will probably surprise us and do really well. But the reality is I have settled on a pretty, realistic set of results here, really. Promoted teams get relegated again. Forest and Palace and maybe someone like, Brentford if they have a really poor season, or Leeds if they drop off really badly from how they've been playing in pre-season, which has been very good. Apart from them teams, most of these ones, Everton, Newcastle, Fulham, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Sunderland, all of these teams, Leeds, depending on how well they do, are all expected to get 40 points and stay in the league, really. I would expect all of these to take points off each other next season. Sunderland and, I believe, is it Brighton? Sunderland and Bournemouth. Do Brighton have Conference League football? These three might struggle a little bit. just because they'll have that European football as well to manage, and it might knock them down the table a few bits. I might actually put Leeds up here, because they played really well in pre-season. They beat about 4 Premier League teams, Man United, Liverpool, and they look really good. They bought a few good players in as well. Trafford's gone there. They've also bought a few more key players. I can't remember who the other one was, but he was a very good addition as well. Leeds quietly adding some good players in pre-season, playing good football, looking very good in terms of attacking, picking teams apart, etc. So really all of these teams in this middle section could be interchangeable. I would say the ones that are in Europe might struggle a lot. Bournemouth played really well last season with Iraola, but with a new manager as well. They might struggle, I think, with the load of the Europa League and playing in the Premier League. Sunderland the same. Brentford played really well last season. If they could build on a bit of how they played last season, they could get back up into this position here again. I think some of these ones that are in Europe are going to struggle though. And then ultimately we come to the top 6, 7 or 8 teams here, which are interesting. Spurs, they've bought about £400 million worth of players, and they've got De Zerbi. Ultimately, I don't think that they're going to be anywhere close to the bottom half of the table this season. They've got lots and lots of new players, all very good players. Tonali, they've got themselves a whole new back four. Robertson, lots of experience there. Senesi played really well for Bournemouth last season. Van Hecke, probably one of Brighton's best players over the past few years. Their back four finally sorted out there. They've still got Maddison and Richarlison, and they've still got Xavi Simons to come back. They've still got other players as well. They've still got Kulusevski to come back, if I can get my words out. And there are plenty of other players as well that have come in that could do some damage for them. Honestly, with Tonali and Fernandes as their double pivot, they're going to be doing pretty well, I think. I think Spurs will do a lot better this season than people might expect. Chelsea, I'm always unconvinced about Chelsea in recent seasons. They've got lots of great players, but they never seem to be able to put it together. Although they have got Xabi Alonso now as their manager, and they did buy Morgan Rogers, who is obviously one of the best players in the league. It remains to be seen whether or not they can put it together in general, because that's been the problem for Chelsea over and over again over the past few seasons. Lots of good players that the managers could never put it together, and ultimately they just fall down at the last hurdle. Did have a few seasons where they were at the top of the league till Christmas and then fell off as well. Clearly, massive squad, full of potential, but still unconvinced by Xabi Alonso and whether or not they can put it together this season. Man United next. Had a pretty good season in the end last season with Carrick. Got some good players. Man United in Burma's played really well. And Burma and Cunha, I think, will play really well next season. Added a few midfielders in. Got a bit more strength in depth. I think they'll be there or thereabouts for the top 4. I think Man United, Aston Villa and Man City, they'll be there or thereabouts in my opinion for the top 4. Aston Villa, I put them in 4th just because they had an excellent season last season, played really well, and they won the Europa League, obviously. Bags of confidence. They've obviously sold Morgan Rogers, but they bought 4 or 5 good players. Their squad is looking deeper to go into the Champions League again this season. They might struggle a little bit in the league because of the Champions League, but ultimately that revenue is going to favour them staying up in the top of the league, being able to buy players, etc. And in pre-season, I've watched them a few times and against PSG in the Super Cup. And ultimately, I think they played really, really well. They looked really, really, really dangerous. Lots of good players. Ultimately, I think Aston Villa will be there or thereabouts for top 4 again next season, unless they have some kind of catastrophic fall-off. Man City, an interesting one, because they played really poorly in that Community Shield against Arsenal. They looked rubbish. Man City could honestly be anywhere from 3rd here down to 6th or 7th, depending on how these other teams do. But I really feel like Spurs, Chelsea, Man United, Aston Villa, they're all in the ascendancy right now. But Man City with Maresca as their manager, big fall off from Pep Guardiola, and ultimately losing some key players, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, and a few defenders, John Stones experience back there as well. They look a little bit light in terms of experience and in terms of that nous to win games. Obviously, you'd expect Man City to always be in the top 5 at least, but they could fall off this season, really, with the amount of changes there are, especially losing Guardiola. I think they're really going to struggle this season, in my opinion. I mean, if that game against Arsenal was anything to go by, I mean, they looked rubbish, let's face it, compared to Arsenal. Liverpool, I've put us in 2nd because ultimately I think Liverpool are going to do a lot better than people realise this season. Our first team against Como completely dominated them. And I think the Como are no slouches, Champions League side. I think 8 or 9 times out of 10, in every game this season, we will probably dominate the opponents in terms of the pressing, the work rate. And we've got goal machine Isak, who's going to come back. He's going to be scoring goals. He's had a full pre-season, looking very sharp. He scored 4 or 5 goals in pre-season. Wirtz is looking very good as well. And ultimately, this one kind of depends on the transfers we make over the next few weeks. Because I think if we get Barcola and Mbai, I think we could be definitely 2, maybe even pushing towards the top of the table, depending on how well Iraola can keep his squad fit ultimately. We will be in the Champions League, and with the style of play, it's going to be difficult to keep the players fit. I think in reality, there's quite a lot here to suggest that Liverpool could go really far into the Champions League and do very well in the Premier League. I think the squad is a little bit thin in terms of depth. If we do get some key injuries, that will affect us badly. But our first team is probably one of the best in the league. I definitely think if we get Barcola and we have Barcola, Wirtz, Isak and Engamoa or Mbai on the right-hand side, our front line will probably be the best one in the league. And I think ultimately, if we sign Barcola, we'll definitely be up in this third, second, first area, in my opinion. Liverpool with Iraola, it's been a big change from Arne Slot, but I think the style of play is really going to suit Liverpool. I think we're going to do really well in this next season. And I think we're going to dominate and overwhelm quite a lot of teams more than people realise. Right now, the situation at Liverpool is basically that. If we get a few more players, increase the squad depth, I think we could go very far in all competitions, to be honest. I've put Arsenal as number 1 just because they've added a few key players in. Guimaraes was a great addition for them. They've got Zolis, who looks like a really great left winger. And they absolutely played Man City off the park in that Community Shield game. And in reality, Arsenal, if they pick up from where they left off last season and they don't tinker too much with what they were doing and they just crack on and they play how they did against Man City, I think they'll do very well next season. The only caveat with this, is ultimately Arsenal last season, I think they won 8 or 9 games by 1 goal, and many of those were set-piece goals, and they scored a lot of set-piece goals last season. As we know, this was a big part of their game, but the rules have changed. And we know with the World Cup, which has trialled a lot of new rules in regards to holding and contact in the box, blocking the keeper, and the style of corners you're allowed to have, I think it could nullify a lot of Arsenal's threat from set pieces. And if that is the case, we could see Arsenal potentially fumbling quite a few games where they would have won last season 1-0 with a header from a corner, and all of a sudden a few of those wins turn into draws and they drop down the table a bit, and maybe they don't get as many points as they did last season. But ultimately, I think Arsenal have got a great squad. They've added a few key players in, which I think they needed, and they've just strengthened their squad even more for going deep into the Champions League and potentially winning the Premier League again. I'm favouring Arsenal, and maybe even if Man City can put it together, I'm favouring Arsenal and Man City ahead of Liverpool in the table right now, just because of the depth of their squads is a bit better than Liverpool's. We have got quite a lot of kids on the bench right now. I think we do need to make some more additions. But ultimately, this is there or thereabouts my Premier League table. I want to say that Liverpool will come second or maybe even win the league, but it entirely depends, I think, on how nullified Arsenal are in terms of the set pieces next season. How much will they be penalised? How many goals will they not get that they had last season because of the changes in the rules? And ultimately, if Liverpool can put it together and keep our key players fit. I think if we keep Isak, Wirtz, Barcola if he comes in, Szoboszlai fit. I think if we keep Van Dijk and a centre-back next to him fit, and the spine of the team is fairly consistent throughout the campaign, I honestly think that Liverpool could do very well. Could do very, very well in this Premier League season. And the reason that I say it is ultimately because we have got a really, really good players. I think our first team of players, especially with Barcola, is probably the best one on paper in the league. Xhaka and Araujo were fantastic in their pre-season game. I think Liverpool have got a really good chance of being good in this next Premier League season, if I'm being completely honest. And the reasons are not just biased reasons. I think teams around them are going to struggle. And if Arsenal struggle for the reason I mentioned, where they are hampered from last season's output from corners, set pieces, if they don't score as many goals from set plays as they did last season, they could fall off in terms of points. Man City have got a new manager. Aston Villa are a good team, but I don't think they have enough to go for the Premier League title yet either, although they'll probably be there or thereabouts again like last season because they have a great team. Unai Emery, a fantastic manager. Man United are Man United. Chelsea are Chelsea in recent years. I don't think Spurs are going to be able to challenge for the top 4. I mean, they may very well do, to be honest, because of the incredible amount of signings that they've made, and they have got a very excellent team and De Zerbi. But with 10 new managers or so, I think it might be 10 new managers for the Premier League next season, it's going to be fascinating to see who flops and who flies. Ultimately, I think Iraola and Liverpool will do very well. I think the style of play, the way he's got us playing, and a few new additions, the amount of intensity, the way that Iraola's been choking teams to death. Obviously, we've lost quite a few pre-season games, but ultimately that was just because we were chopping and changing the team. I think if the first team plays the vast majority of games and we keep the first team fit, Isak, Van Dijk, Szoboszlai, Barcola if he comes in, Wirtz, I think if we keep the spine of the team fit there, Alisson as well, absolutely essential. I think Liverpool will do very well next season. But ultimately right now, the situation is basically that Liverpool are in a bit of a pickle in terms of if they can keep their first team fit. This is about what I reckon for the Premier League table. You've got to let me know your thoughts down below because I'm fascinated to know what you think. I think Arsenal are there or thereabouts to win it again. I think Man City will fall off. I think Villa, Man United, Chelsea probably won't have enough. I think Liverpool will have enough to be in that top 2 or 3. Some of these are going to change around. I think Spurs could come up into this area here as well, into the conversation. But ultimately, I think it's going to be fairly predictable next season. And this is probably what I would say. I want to know what you think, though. Get your comments in down below. I'm fascinated to know what you think about all of this. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff as usual. And I will catch you in the next video. Take care.